straight out of Krypton. Crazy motherfucker named Jor-El. There's a few comic books that I know well. And you know why they follow me? Cause I talk about games and technology.
And we are live. Yes, indeed. You're tuning in to No Wi-Fi on Kandor, straight from the capital city of Krypton. This is your host, Greg, the daydreamer, the speculator, the not really Greg. I'm not Greg. This is Jay Jimenez, the 8-bit retro guy. And once again, this is NWK with Adam, our incognito specialist, infiltrator, and all-around elusive man. And also with me, I have Jason Diaz, the tech enthusiast and the artist and the jack of all trades. And
what up?
What up, though, to all you faithful listeners. So yeah, why me today? Well, if you guys been tuning in, Greg, the real Greg, is a newly married man. So yeah, I mean, congratulations to him, right?
Ooh, congratulations, sir.
Yes, indeed.
Good job.
Such a joyous event, you know. I wish him a lot of happiness and a lot of continued success. And if he's out there listening,
fuck you.
Thanks for the invite, Dick. We're gonna have a great one today. And why is that? Because it's my episode. So deal with it. Me being the 8-bit retro guy, I think would be a good time to jump in some retro stuff. Woohoo!
Very
retro.
Appropriate.
Yes, we are all so enthused. I mean, yeah, retro's the shit, so why not, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got tons of retro shit.
Yeah. All
You
of
probably
us,
do have
we're kinda
the most, right?
a band of brothers that kind of grew up loving the same thing. We all grew up in that time period where 8-bit was the new bit, and now they don't count bits anymore. They just, yeah. It's not like Nintendo and Sega Genesis. It's just a whole new ball game. But
Oh my god.
it had to start somewhere.
Flashback.
So
Yeah, but I remember that. That's one thing that was funny. Remember, you had every time like it was 8-bit and then 12 and then 16. You was like, oh my god, 16,
Genesis
32-bit. Like,
can't do this on Nintendo. Man, those commercials though, like that kind of made you want to jump into all the different video game tech and just jump all over it. And
right.
with the new consoles that were coming along, there were also a lot of new peripherals that, some of them made sense and some of them were just like, what is this?
Right. There was a lot of
Weird
stuff that
shit.
just didn't make any sense at times.
Like what?
Like, like when they tried to add, even though we're going a little ahead, but when they tried to add, like, when they had the Sega and then they add another attachment to it, like just adding attachments to systems that were already there, I really didn't see too much of a difference. They did that with the GameCube. I think the 64 had an attachment to it. There's tons of systems out there that had all types of attachments.
Yeah. So instead of going too far ahead, let's back it up for a second. So why retro? Like, what is it so appealing nowadays? I mean, we have a lot of top-notch technology. Like, we have PS4 Pro. PC users kind of enjoy the most out of their technology because it's easily upgradable. You have Xbox One X, but yet and still the retro just stays strong. Like, why do we stick to it? Why do we love retro so much? Anybody could take this.
Go ahead, Adam.
I think there are like 3 major reasons why I still like retro titles. 1, nostalgia, of course. Hey, This is just like that game I used to play when I was 8 years old,
Yeah, it's because childhood.
Yes. The second one, of course, like game mechanics. I really feel like a lot of retro titles, their game mechanics are very tight and focused, and they just feel really good when you're like the controls feel really accurate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, see,
of course,
I think that was like really paramount to the whole thing because it was a simpler time period. So instead of having a lot of memory to make a vast world or just go for full-on cinematics and flesh out the story, you didn't really have all that with what we were capable of at the time.
Yeah. And like the third big thing I think like makes me really like retro titles still is like the artwork. Like I really like that old pixely art, like just like things like Super Metroid or Zelda, Link to the Past, and Castlevania, of course, Chrono Trigger, things like that.
Man, don't get me started just yet on any of those because I could go for days on those. But yeah.
By the way, thank you very much for introducing me to Chrono Trigger. It's like a pivotal moment in my gaming history.
Yes, it is, and I'm really glad that you have the appreciation as so many of us do. Like, if you haven't had a chance to play it, then get on it because it's a good one.
Play them, man. Especially, you can't say you're a gamer and never went back and actually played any of those titles.
Yeah, I think
true gamer.
I think as a gamer, it's kind of inevitable at some point just to go back and see what everybody was talking about.
Right. Especially like classic, especially games that eventually are the reason why, they were the stepping stones and they're the reason why we have what we have now. So like you gotta go back and just try it.
Absolutely. Now, see, back then, I remember my first console was the Atari 2600. Like, did any of you guys have that growing up?
I've seen, I watch people play, like my older cousins and stuff, like play the Atari, but I've never actually had a chance to.
I actually found one in my attic. And I remember thinking, like, what the hell is this shit?
Did you know?
And then, Mo was like, man, you don't know what this is? And he set it up for me. And we were playing some old-ass video game. I can't remember what it was.
I would have thought it was like an 8-track.
Yeah, I did not know what it was. Like
those cartridges did look like 8-tracks. They were kind of...
They did.
Yeah. Doesn't quite work that way. We didn't have video games that ran off a magnetic tape. But yeah, like, I don't know, everything about that just screams old school. Like, the thing has wood panel, and I find it really interesting that Adam was talking about getting it set up on the TV because, as far as I know, it didn't have that old coaxial hookup. It had the bunny rabbit ears.
Yep.
Wow.
I can't remember. I remember having to screw parts in.
Yeah.
Like we had to put some contacts on there. Like there was some contacts that you had to unscrew and then put them back on. And it was like, what the hell, man? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it was insane. For me, yeah, like it was very simple. The games were really simple. There was just like one goal. And that was it. That was just kind of the bulk of it. There wasn't really too much expanse until later on. But another thing I remember about that was that there actually was, at that time, some add-on peripherals. Because you had the standard joystick with the one button that you used to play most games on. It felt pretty good.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at a picture, and it's like just the joystick with the one red button on the side.
Like if you were like around at that time going to arcades, everything was just joystick and buttons. So I think it worked out pretty well. But there were also some controller add-ons that one of them I remember specifically was the paddle control. It was
I knew you were going to bring that one up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that was I think there was a tennis game. There was a few games that used that one. Of course, there was the tennis game. There was one of the Pong ports, one of many that used it. And I want to say there was a Star Wars game. It was a lightsaber battle game where you kind of use the paddle control to control the swing of the lightsaber.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't even think about like licensed games already. I know there's the infamous E.T. was on there.
Yeah, that was an interesting time. That all happened. It was 1983. I was still in diapers, but yeah, there was a lot of unlicensed games at the time. I know that. A lot of shovelware, a lot of porn-based games. Like Custer's Revenge.
Uh-oh. Jay's gonna buy an Atari now.
I know. I'm
Custer's Revenge.
We'll get that.
Yeah, this is what the video game market got flooded, and this is what caused the crash. And then it got saved by Nintendo.
Nintendo! Oh, man.
Nintendo. I'm a Nintendo head, man. I'm a big Nintendo fan.
Yeah, who could really blame you? I mean, Nintendo kind of, as you say, like it saved the whole thing. It kind of kick-started the whole scene, or else we probably wouldn't have one.
See, because even though the Nintendo was my first console, my first retro experience with gaming, period, was like I don't know what it was. It could have been old. I think it was an old Apple computer or something. Just an old computer. Yeah. Really old computer, just like beige in color, and it was just I was playing this game and had like a pixeled alien, and all you do is just press the space bar to shoot out, and the up arrow to just jump up and down. It's like you're just going over boxes. It was so simple, so plain.
But it was fun, I bet.
You know, it was fun. It was like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was like, oh shit, you can do this type of stuff. So, cause like you guys were saying too, you and Adam was like, back then, now, the games now, they can make all these vast worlds and stuff because a single disc can hold up to 100 gigs.
Yeah.
Not including the fact that you could save to your hard drives now, and now you can have a full game plus all these add-ons. But anyway, so back then, which is probably why, tell you the truth, why there's so much bad games now, bad and good games. Because back then, like you guys were saying, it was so tight that they had to really concentrate on everything. I mean, they went through the music, they had to make sure everything was perfect.
Yeah, and a lot of times back in the day, it was like maybe one or two people working on each game. You didn't have a whole production team or the budget to do such a thing.
Exactly. So I think that's why more titles then were a lot better. That's why I think there was so many hard-hitting titles versus now where, out of all the hundreds of titles might come out for a console now, it's like, there might be a handful that's actually really good. But if you really look back in the day, like he was naming some of them, like even Chrono Trigger or Mega Man X, Super Metroid, Castlevania, Zelda. I mean, those are good games. They were all good games.
Yeah, they were, but they all had their basis and I guess their forefathers, if you will. Now, you said that your first gaming console experience was that. I'm not even really sure specifically which console that is. I know of it, but not it exactly. What was the name of it?
Which one?
The one you're talking about.
The one I was telling you?
Yeah.
With just the PC thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It could have been one of them really early Mac Apple PCs or something.
Oh, okay, yeah. They had
the first console I had that I owned, period, was the Nintendo that came with Mario and Duck Hunt.
Oh yeah.
And you know, and you got the laser gun and the 2 controllers, and I mean that was my first console period, and that was the game. That was the only game I had at the time, because you know when you was younger, you didn't get a lot of games like that. You only had like a handful of games.
Yeah.
Just whatever your parents got you.
Well, we'll expound on that momentarily. What was the first gaming console? Is there like a popular opinion, or is there just one single thing? Like, Adam, you look like you know this one.
I look like I know it. You can see me?
Yes. You're
not
so incognito anymore.
Well, there's like, you know, debate still over who's the actual father of gaming, whatever. I think most people consider Ralph Baer to be the inventor of the video game console. But there was a guy, William, I can't remember his last name.
Which console was that Ralph Baer was responsible for?
Didn't he do like the Odyssey?
The Magnavox.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and but there was a guy, I can't remember his full name. It's William something.
Okay.
But he like worked in a like a nuclear facility, and like he took one of the instruments and he made that paddle. He made a
okay, you're talking
pong
about
for 2.
I really do not want to butcher this name. This William Higginbotham.
Yeah, that's him, I think.
That's the guy.
He a lot of people credit him as the guy who made the first video game.
A lot of people credit him with the invention or the inception, or whatever kind of fancy word for just coming up with the idea like, hey, this would be nifty as a game.
Yeah, but then Bayer is the guy who made what we consider consoles, home video game consoles.
Yeah, he brought it into the forefront. That's something else.
I don't know, because wasn't at least for what I see sometimes, I think I always hear like Pong was like the first real game.
Tennis for 2 was the Higginbotham. That's what he made. It was the first game.
Tennis for 2.
Tennis
but
for 2.
I think Pong was close around there, because I know Pong is like definitely old.
Well, yeah, it's 70s old.
That's definitely that's what I'm saying. So I think it was around one of the first.
Yeah, this Higginbotham guy did this shit in the 50s though.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think really, me personally, what made it when it really went mainstream, like it was really out there. Yeah, there was arcades and stuff, but really brought it to the house. Yeah, you have the Atari and stuff, but I think Nintendo. I just have to go with Nintendo. I think Nintendo really just brought it in there and started that whole competition.
No, nothing else matters. Pong doesn't matter. Atari doesn't matter. The Odyssey, Ralph Baer.
No,
none of it.
Else.
It was all
just
about
Nintendo.
Just Nintendo. Yeah, Nintendo was definitely doing it.
Because it was modern as hell. You had the Atari and everything like that, and all the other ones. But when Nintendo came out and it was in your house, it was like the most modern thing there.
Oh yeah.
Well, are you talking about which one? Are you talking about? Are you talking about the Famicom or the Nintendo Entertainment System?
Fact checker. Checking the facts.
The Nintendo Entertainment Center.
I actually don't like the way the Famicom looks. Maybe it's just because...
Is it a color scheme?
I don't know. It's got like the little things on the side where you put the controllers and stuff, and it just it was obviously supposed to be like family friendly, so they tried to make it looks like toyish,
Yeah. It looks like cheap plastic.
Maybe it's just because the NES is what I played when I was a kid, so that's to me what I think about. But I kind of like the look, even though it's boxy as hell and would hurt you just touching it. All them sharp exits.
Those edges.
Yeah,
even the
ridiculous.
controller was like very edgy, and they had to come out with a lot of alternatives to not have sore thumbs.
Not very ergonomic.
Right. Yeah, I think, but you know, if you look at everything, Nintendo does, did you know they had, a partnership one time, with Sony?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Was this for
that happened way
the
later.
PlayStation?
Yes.
Well, the PlayStation eventually, you know, came out of it. To tell you the truth, if the way I look at it, if it wasn't for Nintendo, Sony there wouldn't be a PlayStation. Because, you know, they were partners on it, and it was like the Super NES CD.
Oh yeah.
You know, so right, it was getting ready. They were about to go into development. It was getting ready towards the end, and Nintendo just pulled out, just like they like to do.
Nintendo.
And so Nintendo likes to pull out. So Nintendo pulled out at the last minute, and Sony was mad. But Sony had already, you know, they had so much in development already. They were like, all right, and then they went ahead and they dropped the Sony PlayStation. So, because Nintendo decided to basically shit on the deal at the end, Sony is what it is today, as far as the gaming consoles.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. You know, Nintendo.
It is. It's wild.
Yeah.
I have a link for that too, just in case anybody's interested.
Nobody cares about that.
Man, if they would have made one though, I would have liked to get my hands on that shit. It looked crazy.
It might still be possible. And I think that's one of the things Nintendo has a pretty wide history of doing, is just trying their hands out in different things and just trying to dominate the market with a lot of gimmicks. But, you know, on the topic of gimmicks, you know, some of the things that they came out with were seemingly just that. And right. one of the ones I remember well is the Power Glove.
How did that? I've seen it. Never ever got a chance to actually. Did any of you guys actually get to mess with that?
Yeah, I've messed with that pretty briefly. Yeah, I want to say my older brother, who's in Jersey right now, and if he's checking out the podcast, hi, what up? I'm doing a podcast now. But yeah, like that thing, you know, the first time I seen it was in The Wizard, and that was a movie that came out in the 80s. It was just like probably one of the most expensive commercials about Nintendo that was ever made. But it was my first glimpse at Super Mario 3 and the Power Glove. And I remember in that movie, it was just so bad. It was so bad. And I thought it was pretty dope that he put in Rad Racer, which I used to love back in the day. It was like one of my favorite racing games on the Nintendo. But yeah, he just kind of, you know, programs his little buttons on his Power Glove. He's like, boop, 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 boop. Copyright. Maybe not. I don't know who
Fred Savage
was in charge of the rights and all that shit. But yeah,
was it easy to like? I mean, was it actually easy to use just one hand and everything like that, or?
Absolutely not.
It looks like it. Like I'm looking at it.
It looks like it could be. You know, he kind of made it like really intuitive. Like you could just turn your hand and yeah, man, I'm driving the car. If you actually pay attention in the movie, he's hitting a bunch of shit. But you know, for the most part, it looks like it's not unplayable. You know, he's like doing a motion to hit the throttle. You know, he rotates his wrist to steer the car, but it was nowhere near that intuitive. It was difficult to program. Certain games.
So, were they trying to like like, okay, were they trying to do something kind of like the Kinect and stuff, where you kind of like, or how the, how about like how the, do you think it eventually became what the Wii controller? Like it was the start of that, and eventually the Wii controller and stuff with the motion.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was one of the earliest times that Nintendo tried to dabble in that. Like they had so many things. Like even if we could go back to the Famicom thing, the version of Legend of Zelda for the Famicom had a different gaming mechanic just because of the controller. One of the controllers, which was built in and not removable, had a microphone.
Huh.
And there's an enemy, Adam, you might remember this, but the little bunny rabbit guys, they're called Pole's Voice. And if you play the US version of Legend of Zelda, I think you had to use bombs to kill them. But
yeah, they jump around. Oh, you have to put a bomb, and then I used to hate that shit. You have to run away from, like, try to put it where you think it's gonna jump.
Yeah, they were just so erratic in their behavior. But in the Japanese version, you actually blow or whistle into the microphone, and they die. And that's the only way to kill them.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I found this out recently myself. But going back to the Power Glove, yeah, I think it was the first kind of, I think it was Nintendo's first foray into motion sensor technology. It just didn't really work out well. You're essentially just throwing gang signs at the TV, and it really, it really doesn't capture the proper feel of playing in the game. You know, it's very clumsy. It didn't work out so well, but it makes a great collector's item.
It looked cool.
Yeah, it still does.
Here's a question here. Hey, Adam, what's some of your favorite since we're on retro, what's some of your favorite retro tech, period? You know, whether it's gaming or just anything. Was there anything like you really liked from back in the day?
I really like technology progressing.
Just in general.
The two things with like retro gaming tech that immediately comes to mind is the Nintendo Zapper. I still love playing Duck Hunt with that. And of course,
people used to cheat and be right on.
Exactly.
Screen, like,
when it's your turn, you just walk right up to the television and put it right against the screen and kill every duck.
And how many times did everybody just want to shoot the dog?
Oh, I think that's everybody who ever played Duck Hunt.
Whoever played it was just shooting the dog.
Fuck that dog.
The other thing that comes to mind that I actually kind of miss was the VMUs. Do you remember VMUs?
On the Dreamcast?
Yes.
Oh, God,
exactly.
Yes.
Was they those little, they went into the controller? Like,
yes, it was a memory card that looked like a very tiny Game Boy.
I've seen that.
Yes.
But I mean, how did it really work? I mean, was it really like that? Like, did it really work like that?
It's like, I remember, Greg is gonna love this, playing Sonic Adventure, and you could get, how do you say it? Chows? Is that how you pronounce them?
Yeah.
Yes. You get these little chows, and depending on how you raise them, they were like, what do they call those? Like gigapets or something?
Yeah,
like they're little virtual pets.
Yeah, they were like those, or like Tamagotchis or something.
Or Tamagotchis, that's the other word. Yeah, thank you. You would get the little chows, and then you could save them onto your VMU, and you could play like a little Tamagotchi game on there when you're not, playing your Dreamcast. And depending on how you raise them, they would shapeshift, and they would look like Sonic or Knuckles or Tails or something.
Yeah,
like it was actually pretty cool.
Did
they add anything?
Traits.
And when you add it to the controller, like, is it kind of like, okay, you know how those little, what the hell you call them? What's the name? You know how Nintendo has those little, what do they call them? It's not they're little figures, and you can put on the...
Oh, amiibos.
Yeah, amiibos. That was it. Something like you put it back in your controller and then it adds something.
Yes,
to
then
the game?
that you feed them or whatever. You do little mini games that increase their stats, and then when you go back into the Sega Genesis, you go into like I think it was a Chow Garden, and all your little chows would be there, and they would look different.
Yeah, those things they doubled as memory cards and as miniature playable games.
Yeah, little tiny Game Boys. And I'm not sure how much I should say about this, but it was my first introduction to modding. It was one of my first modding experiences, and you could put
they say just for study purposes.
Well, yeah, I'm not like
for research.
I wasn't
research.
Yeah.
Only.
Well, what you could do is you could take your VMU and you could like go to certain websites and stuff like that, and you could download homebrew mini games. Like I remember playing Snake on there and like some kind of platformer, and I was like, wow, this is so cool that I could potentially make my own video game and then play it on this tiny little machine,
Dreamcast did a lot of things that were ahead of their time.
Ahead of his time, yeah.
Like it was.
No, go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, like not just the visual memory card or whatever. I forget the abbreviation exactly, but who cares?
I think you're right. Memory unit.
It was visual something. But yeah,
memory unit. I think that's it.
I believe that was the first home console that had internet capabilities as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time for the tech. I think that's pretty much one of its downfalls. People weren't ready for.
Yeah, they were too early.
Yeah. Do you think that like kind of led up to its demise?
Oh, definitely. People, because at the time we wasn't trying to get on no online gaming or nothing like that. Even though it was right around the corner, it was just too early for some of that stuff, and people didn't care about that. They just wanted to jump on something, play a game, and that's it. They wasn't like Adam would utilize the shit out of it. Like, oh, I'm gonna take this and do this, but a lot of people wasn't trying to do that.
Yeah, maybe for some, the leap in technology was a little bit more appealing. But for other ones, it was just like, why is this here? I just want to sit on my couch and play a game. I don't want to...
Like, for example, freaking web TV. That was retro.
Yeah.
Web TV, people, bring the web to your television stuff. People, that didn't last long because people wasn't ready for that.
Yeah. They had that on the Sega Genesis. They had the Sega channel.
A web browser, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a web browser. Yeah. I remember going to some website and trying to view a picture, and it was just going line by line because it was so slow. The picture was way too big.
Oh my god. I remember those days of loading up web pages. Oh my god. It took forever. You could leave, cook something, make dinner and shit, come back. You can do whatever the hell you want to, exercise, go for a run, and then the page will finally load up. It was so slow. But then, for me, just getting off the game subject a little bit, some of my favorite retro tech that I miss was, the freaking chirp. Remember when they had the walkie-talkie phones?
Oh man.
I used to love that shit. Yeah, the Nextels. I had a Nextel Motorola i930.
Goddamn.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was like the one you had to get. Everybody was working their way up, and it had the fake. Well, I call it the fake Windows because there really wasn't nothing on there. It really wasn't Windows. It was just like bull crap. But man, that was fun. That was fun as hell. And people would chirp you in the worst times. You'll be like in the middle of a store or somewhere like at work or something. People chirp you and say crazy shit.
It was very invasive.
Right. But I love that, man. That was one of my favorites. And Another thing too was my Teddy Ruxpin when I was little.
Teddy Ruxpin, bro.
Yeah.
I think the best.
Used to put.
Go ahead, Jay.
I think everybody, man, we used to put. We would listen to Pac, Biggie, Nas, and all that. We would put the tapes, the cassette tapes, in him.
Okay, that's exactly what I was gonna get into.
Right, and just I think everybody did that at one point, and just freaking had him rapping and doing all types of stuff.
Just put some Wu-Tang in there.
Hell yeah.
Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. Teddy Ruxpin. Have you seen the new one?
Yes, I seen the new one. I was looking at it. It was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like how the old one looks.
Yeah, the old one had blinking eyes, not that. I don't know. What's it, LED now that he has?
I know, they just glow with it. Imagine you put your kid to sleep and it's just sitting there and looking at your kid.
Yeah.
And it starts the eyes start glowing and shit like that. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. On the other hand, I think with the new one, there's more potential to do some evil shit.
Right. Man, and then just, arcade systems. I'm still, like, I collect a lot of stuff, and, I would love to get, Space Invaders, Asteroid, Donkey Kong, Frogger, Gallagher, 1942, Paperboy, Punch-Out, man.
Gallagher. Not Gallagher. Not like Shameless.
It's Gallagher, man.
Gonna smash a giant watermelon.
Oh, God.
No, that's the
I got warrants.
That's the hood way, Gallagher. So, anyway. But, no, I would still love to get at least 2 arcade systems in my house. Like old school. And not those little ones they sell at Walmart or Target where have you guys seen them? They're little, they're tiny as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Not that stuff. I'm talking about the real deal.
So, going back to what you were talking about with the Nexels, would you say that's one of the fonder memories you have with the old school technology?
Yeah, I would. I had a lot of fun when I had the old Nextel phones with the chirp. It was.
You had a lot of fun with the when people were doing shit.
Yeah, it was like something to do. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, where were we? Yeah, like I think the phones at the time, if anything, they might not have been as capable as what we have now, but they were definitely more durable. I feel like a lot of things were just built better back then.
Yeah, they were. I must have dropped that sucker like a million times.
Yeah, nowadays you can't drop your iPhone or anything like that. I mean, you can, but you'll be one of those people with cracked screens.
I know, like, yo, I just got this phone. The whole screen be cracked. Now the back of the phones are made out of glass too, so the whole phone.
The whole thing would be done for. Check out my iPhone. Yeah, I think the oldest phone I had, it was one of the old Samsung flip phones that actually had a camera on it. And even though the cameras back in the day wasn't shit, it was a camera. Like, I thought it was really nifty that we had progressed to that point where we could, have a camera on our phone.
Right. I heard there was these one Nokia phones. They were like small, they were slim, simple. They had just all the buttons on the bottom, small little screen. I actually heard that they're gonna make a comeback. They're gonna make those phones. I guess they're gonna be still smart and everything like that, but they're just gonna be in that style. So it's gonna be like a little retro smartphone.
It's about damn time. I was actually really hoping that they would do that too.
One of the ones I really thought they were gonna do that with was the Motorola Razr. Remember that phone?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Everybody had one of those too. I heard that they were gonna bring that back and just have Android on it, but that never happened.
Well, I mean, it's not completely out of the question, I suppose. But yeah, like, that's another one of those things that's just kind of going back to basics. Like it all ends up back at the beginning.
Yeah, here the phone is the Nokia 3310.
Oh, the 33 is that the?
Yeah, if you guys look it up real quick, you'll see like it's modernized a little bit, but it is retro. But I don't know if I would actually like trade in my Galaxy S9 for a for like a physical button phone.
Yeah, it's more of a novelty.
Yeah, like just to have it maybe, but I don't think it's like an everyday driver.
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like they're taking something old, making it new, a lot like the classic consoles.
Is there any tech that you miss and wish will come back?
See, I think for me, like, I could side with Adam on this one because, just having something that has a visual format that's meant as a device to just save your games, it kind of adds a new dimension to everything you're doing. It's like gaming within gaming, the Inception version of video games. Like, yeah, I can't talk right now. The amiibos are pretty cool in their own right. I think they're just cooler as something to have. Like, yes, they do put enhancements within your games, but there's no real other function besides the fact that it looks cool to have in your house.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't want the actual thing to come back. Like what's the point of, are you really going to carry around another thing? Are you going to, when you have your cell phone or whatever? But I like the idea of it. I like the idea of like little tiny mini games that what do you contribute to your full game.
What do you think would kind of expand on that? Like what do you think would be a good way to bring back the VMUs but modernize it? Is there any way that that's possible, or?
Yeah, like I would think like especially games with like that are heavily stat based, like RPGs or something, where you'll play the console, version when you're home, and then when you're like at work on your lunch break, whatever, you open a little app and you can play some type of mini game, right, like that, I don't know, even just like rearrange your inventory and shit from your phone. So that way when you get back, you're like, oh, everything is all set up for me to go right back into the game or to grind out something or something like that.
Didn't they do that with GTA, where like I think they had an app and you can like feed the dog and take care of the dog and stuff, and then when you went back into the game, like the dog had a new collar, it had the name, it was stronger and stuff, and I think
was it iFruit or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It was an app, and and I think they did it for Fable too, right? Didn't they have the pub games? And when you play, you actually keep the money. You could
earn gold and then keep the money. Yeah, exactly. Right. Things like that. I like another one that would just pop into my mind right now is if you play The Witcher 3, they have a card game in The Witcher 3 called Gwent. It would be great to just be like, oh, I'm going to play Gwent on my cell phone, and then all that money that I earn playing Gwent will import into, the main game when I get back in. Okay. And then now you have gold to buy swords.
I think I was just going to ask about that. Like, is the Gwent card game something that has an actual bearing on the main game? Because I haven't played it.
Not in The Witcher 3, but like it's become popular enough that it's become its own game. Like you can download Gwent. It's in preview on Xbox right now.
How about anything new? Anything, any of the guys, like, is there anything new right now that's just like your favorite? Like, something that you like can't live without right now?
I think this will actually touch into the previous question as my whole take on it, but I think it would just be smartphones. because when you think about the whole thing with the VMU, to me that reminds me of having an app on your smartphone that has functionality in an actual game that you're playing. And like we've progressed to that point, and it's just because smartphones do just about everything.
Right.
Like you could play, for example, you could play Fallout 4 and open up your Pip-Boy app and it'll actually be functional. So I think that's something that's pretty cool, and just, yeah, being able to have that networking between your phone and the games you're playing is pretty nifty. Like, I think it could be a little more to the point where there's something specific to cater to each game, but, you know, I feel like that's maybe not cost effective. I don't know.
For me, I mean, that's so it's pretty much like just having your phone, being able to interact the games you play and stuff with your phone.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I think a newer technology is that I've been wanting to get my hands on one too, is a 3D printer. I've been like, I see so much stuff going on with 3D printers, and even for your game systems, I see a lot of people like making a lot of different modifications on their consoles, or like their own stands, or just or just making. You specifically would make so much use out of that because you are the tech enthusiast. Right, I would make like little figures, like little Mario figures, or Cloud, or freaking Final Fantasy VII. So I would do like figures like that. I've seen, I would just use it to do everything, and I wanted to get one so bad. And to me, that's like, as it progresses, that's one of the newest technologies that I'm like really, really into.
I could dig it. So yeah, let's What were some of the ones that you thought were really like, why did they do that? Because there's a lot. I think we touched briefly on the Power Glove, but that's just one of my experiences. I have a good feeling that one of you would be able to kind of regale us with a story of just odd tech oddities.
Okay, if we're talking about like really weird or ridiculous retro stuff, like the ones that I think about are like the Steel Battalion controller.
Oh man, is that the one where it's like a huge console with a bunch of like levers and stuff like that?
It's like, yes, it's supposed to be like what would be inside of a mech. So it's got like all these switches and buttons and all these things. Like, I'm sure somebody loves it, but that was so weird, and like it just seemed overly complicated.
Yeah, it definitely looks that way.
Do you remember the Sega Activator?
The Activator.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
It was like a hexagon that you would stand in. I can't remember. One of my friends had this. And it was, I guess it was...
Oh, yeah. I've seen
it's
them used with Mortal Kombat.
It looked like a big hexagon or something. And you're supposed to stand in it, and it was supposed to read your movements with like lasers or something.
Oh, okay. So
Sega
was trying to get into the whole motion capture thing as well.
Yeah.
People used it with Mortal Kombat.
I don't think. Oh my God! Yes, you're right. There was a commercial for it or something. I remember that.
Somebody was Johnny Cage or something. They were trying to do the kick, or
it was terrible.
I remember that. I can't believe it.
Or speaking of Dreamcast again, there was that fishing controller.
Oh jeez.
Like, what? Why would you spend money on just a fishing controller?
I didn't
or
know
does
that
anybody
existed.
remember the laser scope?
I remember that one.
There's like a big old helmet you put on. It was like you're supposed to like call out fire, fire, and
Yes.
shoot. Like, oh my god.
You know, they
Yeah.
tried to redo that. You know who tried to do something like that? Microsoft. I don't know if it was with the 360. There was a military game that came out, and you had to talk through the headset and tell them what to do. Like, you was like, Alpha, go to section 6, or the Beta, go to section 4.
No, this
Like,
is way worse.
Well,
That's
yeah,
voice command,
yeah,
but
but-
this is a big old helmet you had with a little
It just
screen
reminded
in
me of
front of
something
your
like
eye.
that. Like, that's crazy.
I think Konami made it. Yeah. In fact, I'll give you a link so that you can put it up there.
Yeah, I've never messed around with that thing, but I do remember that commercial where the kid was like, "Fire, fire, fire," and I was like, "That doesn't sound fun." But I mean, I guess having a scouter on your face and being able to aim at things was pretty dope. Anybody remember?
I think they just didn't have the technology. The technology wasn't good enough back then, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of things were done way ahead of time. Anybody remember the Power Pad on Nintendo?
The Power Pad?
Yeah, it was.
Like you dance on it, right? Like you use your feet.
It's funny you say that because there might have been some games that were like based around dancing, but it's definitely a precursor to like Dance Dance Revolution in the sense that
Yeah.
you're using your feet to control the game. So I think
Were you trying to like play Mega Man on it or some shit?
yeah, see, like that like didn't work out so well. But the games that it was intended for, it actually worked out pretty well. Like I think there was a track and field game where you would actually run on the power pad and it would show up in game. And depending on
I
how
wonder if
fast you
anybody
were moving
actually
your feet,
hurt themselves.
your character would move like that as well.
Oh, that's cool.
I wonder if somebody hurt themselves doing that.
Oh yeah, I bet plenty of people did that.
Man, they had a Super Nintendo. Now that I think about it, there was a Super Nintendo mouse, like a mouse
Yes.
and a pad. Like,
Yes, on Mario Paint.
yeah, you had a Super Nintendo mouse and pad. It was like, you can use the controller. I guess they were
Yeah.
trying to be more precise. With a mouse, you can be a little bit more precise. But I mean,
Yeah,
Just
they
use the controller
they
thing.
kind of squandered that one because like they could have probably utilized that so well, and they were capable because you had Doom on Super Nintendo. There's a Doom port that's actually pretty decent on the Super Nintendo, and that would have been perfect. But instead, I think the only real use they made out of it was for Mario Paint.
then they had, you know what? They had, if anybody had a little Sega Game Gear, they had that attachment, and it would be like I think it was like a radio or a TV attachment or something that
Oh,
would
it had
connect to
it had a TV tuner.
Yeah, a TV tune would attach to it, and it had a little antenna on it, and you can, like, it would just be like local stuff. It's not like it's anything that we're, so it was like whatever you could get on it.
Didn't one of you guys have that? Vin or somebody?
Are you talking about, Tristan's brother?
Somebody had it. I remember it.
Yeah, I didn't have a
Vic.
Game Gear, but
I think Vic. Vic
oh,
had it.
okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
I've seen that. Then you have the little Nintendo robot, which I really didn't.
Rob the robot.
I really didn't get the whole idea of that.
What was even the purpose of that?
I don't know. I guess he just
I
open
know.
and closes.
Adam knows because he's the fact checker.
Adam knows.
Adam, take it
Well,
away.
it goes back to how Nintendo saved the video game market.
Ooh.
After the crash, companies like toy companies and stores didn't want to carry video games because there was so much garbage and it crashed, like they lost so much money
Yes.
on stock that didn't sell. So Nintendo, in a genius marketing move, said, no. This isn't a video game console. We're selling a robot. And the robot comes with a video game console.
That is
So,
pretty genius.
Nintendo has always been they've always been the forerunner for a lot of stuff. I mean, they always do these moves. Like they had, if you had a Nintendo, the Game Boy Advance, and you were into Pokemon, they had it where you could slide the Pokemon like a little card reader, and you can slide the card through. Like they always try to add this technology to everything they had. They always try to make all these accessories. One of the stupidest things they have now for the Switch, I know you guys seen them, is all that cardboard crap. Like, why the hell would I...
about the Labo?
Yeah, why the hell... I mean, okay, maybe for a little kid, but why the hell would I want pieces of cardboard? I think it's stupid. I really do. Like, okay, if I can... Why would I... It's just dumb. Why would I buy a whole set of cardboard?
Because it's not for you. It's for the kids. The kids kind of...
It's too damn expensive to give to a kid. Let me buy... my kids don't even have Switches. They cost too damn much to me. Here, put it in a cardboard box. And
you're bad dad.
Like that. Screw that.
Dad, can I play yours? No!
My son asked me, can I play yours? I said, did you see your Xbox controller? You can't even press the A button. Hell no, you ain't touching my Switch. Was there any game... Oh, man, was there any game console controllers that you thought was just weird?
Controllers?
You know, yeah, like the Nintendo 64. How that one kind of was like weird looking. Even though I kind of liked it. But it was like weird looking. You know, it was like you could switch.
Yeah, it was weird looking, and like it took a little bit of getting used to, but
it wasn't bad. It really wasn't. Like, I had a lot of fun on the 64, and the controller was straight. It was just kind of weird how it was.
No, I think for me, if we're talking about odd design choices and controllers, I think that would be more like the Sega Genesis controller, simply because you had all the buttons side by side.
Right.
Like, it was all in a row, A, B, C. So it made it a little bit trickier to, I don't know, be functionally effective in the games. Why do I even talk?
You know, the Dreamcast controller was weird to me. I think that's, but I also think, I think, you know, the Dreamcast, a lot of designs were stolen from the Dreamcast, because I think the way it looked, it was funny how when the original Xbox came out, their controller looked similar to it, and they even had the big old memory card, right? You know what I'm saying? They even had the big old memory cards on the top that went into it, and it was big. And you know, speaking of that too, they're actually making a comeback. There's a company that's making those big fat ass controllers.
The Dukes.
Yeah. And I was like, why? Who would buy those? You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, they were so horrible. Like,
people with big hands.
Well, I ain't got no big hands, man. When the S came out, when the S-Type came out for the Xbox controller, I thought that was the best thing ever.
Yeah, that was a game changer.
It was. But I guess people like that. You know what I'm saying? They play that. That one was weird too, though, because the buttons kind of went straight up. You know, if you remember it, it was blue, yellow, and then white, and then green, red, and black. They kind of went upward.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That was another weird.
I think it was just an odd choice in implementing the button placement.
Yeah, because
not to mention the controller was massive.
Yeah, because I think at one time, it was just crazy. I think at one time they really didn't care too much about the controllers. You know what I'm saying? They were worried about the games and the game system, console itself, and I think the controller was, you know, the last thing on their mind. Later on, they realized, hey, you have to have a good controller. Because if you don't have a good controller, nobody's going to buy the console.
Well, somebody wanted the shit back, so
right.
Thank you to whoever it was. Like, you resurrected the Duke for all the people who wanted it, that you could count on one of your hands.
Their giant hands.
Their giant fucking hamburger helper hand.
You know what? That little Nintendo Game Boy, That one was kind of crazy. That little mini.
Which one? Oh, I used to have one of those.
Yeah, wasn't that crazy though? It was like tiny. Like, how did you even play anything on it?
Like, yeah, it was. It was like really. It was really small. I think that was just the sheer novelty of it. Was that it was the mini. I think the only real good thing about it was, I think it had a lithium-ion battery, so you just charge it up like how the modern handhelds are.
Right.
And the screen, even though it was smaller, it was a little more crispy. Like there was more brightness, more sharpness to the picture. But yeah, that wasn't something that lasted long. It was just kind of one of the things that Nintendo missed the mark on.
And I guess before we change, the freaking Wii U controller, which eventually became the Switch, but that thing, like they had a good idea, but that thing didn't even make no sense.
Elaborate.
It was like, they try to say, oh, you can play the game on it, and if somebody's watching TV and everything, like they had an idea, and it wasn't bad, but
okay.
But the controller itself, it sucked. It was cheaply made. You really couldn't walk around the way they said you could. I would walk right out my room and it would just cut off. I had to basically still stay next to the console.
Yeah, I think that was more of the segue into like what they have now.
Right. That was just bad design right there.
Bad design.
I can't think of anything else that's like weird or bad.
We've already spent a good portion of our time just kind of getting into that, but
right.
Yeah, it's been a pretty long and sordid history, and a lot of things have changed from then up until now. Again, it was the simplicity of the games, going back to the Odyssey, where you couldn't really do much with the graphics, so you had to have the little screen overlays to kind of give the illusion that there was different things happening within the game.
Right.
And then it kind of progressed into actual graphics, like on the Atari. And then Nintendo just brought it up to 11. You could distinguish everything that was on the screen. Like, that was the beginning of cinematics. There was just like a huge library of games. And
all your games belong to us.
All your games. God, that game. That should be a podcast episode in itself. Just
that game.
A Zero Wing episode. No, not really. There's not much to that game besides all your base.
Right.
It's a pretty lackluster game as far as shoot 'em ups go. But yeah, my, how things have changed. Like, what's one of the things that kind of stand out the most as far as just the evolution from then up until now? Like, is it, just the graphics, or is it just the general feel of it? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I think that the thing that has changed the most is actually the storytelling. When I play games, like, when I was a child, I never really thought of the story that much. It wasn't until like I played games like, Legend of Zelda and Chrono Trigger, where I started to think about what the story was and like enjoy it a lot more.
It all just comes back to Chrono Trigger, I suppose.
Yeah, for a long time, video games were like my preferred storytelling medium. Like, I would like it much more than movies and television shows, The quality of storytelling has gotten so much better, like, and the methods they use, like, has evolved so much. Like you were saying before, it would just be like 8-bit stuff, and there wouldn't be anything. It would just be like a little exposition. Like the game would start, you'd see a little text crawl telling you what the story is, and then you would play a bunch of levels, and then there'd be an outro text, you know? But now there's voice acting, there's cutscenes, there's collectibles that can tell you the story through text or audio files. Like there's visual progression, like you can see like your character change as the game goes on, you know. There's like environmental storytelling where like in Bethesda games or something where you'll walk into a room and there'll be, you know, a skeleton with a gun and, you know, another skeleton on the other side with a gun, and you can just tell what happened in that room without actually the developers giving you like a little audio thing or something like that.
Yeah. And I love that. Like, especially with Bethesda games, there's a lot of lore that's involved, and just those little details, like the ones you were just mentioning, like with the skeletons, like they all have their own little mini story that a lot of times...
environmental storytelling.
Yeah, like that and the fact that they, you know, they have continuity within the series, because Fallout kind of goes back a long way.
Yeah. There's even like,
or
you know,
Scrolls.
like what they call emergent storytelling, where it's like, oh, I'm playing this open world game and something happened to me, and that happened to you, just to you, because of the way the physics are, the way like the route you took, the things like that, you know. And then like RPGs now have like lots of player choice in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They all, to me, all those things together like makes storytelling in games like so much more compelling and stuff, like especially compared to where we started with like little text crawls at the beginning of a platformer or something.
That's why single player games are the best.
Greg.
Yeah. What you say now, Greg?
Yeah, Greg.
But he's right, you know, it's just like being immersed in the story, you know. Just the way things are now, it's a lot better. It makes me want to play games like, you know, The Witcher, and I think that, you know, The Last of Us and games like that, or even Tomb Raider, you know, because of the story.
I think Tomb Raider is a perfect example of how far we come as far as, you know, the storytelling and the exposition and
the graphics.
Even the graphics,
right.
The gameplay, like all of the above, like that's such a good example because it was so primitive when we started. I think,
yeah, I always think of Mass Effect, the Mass Effect series.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you create your own character, you can find like little bits and pieces, like little audio logs or just little text. You can like, you know, on different planets, you'll find like different structures that let you know something was there before. Then you can do choices that carried over into the next game, It was, I don't know, it was like one of my favorite series until the third one.
No, but you know, something like that is dope. Mass Effect definitely is dope because, you know, any game where I can jump into and, you know, I have a complete main mission and I'm following that mission, but then there's like, you know, I go into like, I don't say you go into a house and there's just a note there, it's an abandoned house, and you read it and the note could have been like, you know, like you walk in and there's dead bodies or something sitting there, and then the note's just the father writing because, you know, the mom and the child died first, and he's writing his feelings about it, you know, and you just kind of get immersed in it, and it makes you feel.
Yeah, the Bethesda games have that a
right,
lot.
Right, and that's like, you know, that's what, you know, that's the best of what storytelling has to give you, and you know it's only going to get better because now they're starting to hire people that write novels and stuff, you know, that actually write books and things like that. So that it's only going to get better. So that's something that definitely evolved.
Yeah, without question. I mean, it's gotten to a point where, you know, that's it's become such a legitimate storytelling medium, and now, like, you actually have some kind of connection with some of the more arbitrary characters and NPCs within the game, like doing their quest lines and seeing how your choice is gonna affect their existence in a virtual world is just insane.
And even like you said, the graphics has come a long way. You went from platformers all the way to now where, like Tomb Raider again, her hair when you're just standing there, especially in 4K when you're playing the game in 4K, but when she's standing there and every strand of her hair is moving in the wind,
oh yeah,
the way her clothes move and everything, it's just getting so much more better.
So with that said, to what degree do you think our graphics lending importance to storytelling or just general immersion?
Well, for me, they can allow people, like, they can hire actors, and they can allow them to really, just throw on a green suit or whatever, and then, do what they gotta do, how they have all the motion sensors on them, but they can allow them to act, like a really good actor and act, and then because of the way graphics are, have evolved, you can see the facial expressions from the character and stuff. You can really actually get sad about a certain scene. You can even get angry, like something can happen in the scene and you can be pissed and you can't wait till you regain control of that character so you can go ahead and get revenge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, so with the graphics and the storytelling and it's all mixed in like that, it's evolving together. It's evolving to a point together where everything before, as you go further back, like I said before, everything was so separate.
No, absolutely.
Because, like, music for a game was just, music for each level. Okay, whatever. It really had nothing else to do with the character. But now, if there's a sad scene, they can play sad music. You know what I'm saying? It just kind of, makes everything better.
On that note, that's something else that's been going on for quite some time. Like, just using the music within a game to kind of invoke a certain feeling. Because back in the day, it was more about capturing that feeling. Like, you didn't have such high audio quality. You had to arouse emotion in selecting the music. Probably why old school music is so good. And then now it's, you have orchestration and voice acting. It's just insane. We could go on and on about video game music, but yeah, I think we should save that for another episode. Adam, any more thoughts on this?
On how the tech has evolved?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where you were saying how like the graphics have evolved. Jason's right, like being able to put so much more fidelity. Basically, everything has just been more fidelity, more audio fidelity, more visual fidelity, and with more fidelity and more definition comes the ability to pack so much more in, to tell more either through visuals or through audio that they couldn't before,
Absolutely. What do you think, Adam, would be the next step to all of this? Like, we've already progressed, from hooking up Atari to the rabbit ear connections on the TV that sits on the floor to having a 4K TV with Dolby 7.1 surround sound. Like, what could we possibly do next that we would be looking back on what we have now?
Well, I think the thing everybody is hoping for is virtual reality.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna go there.
Yeah. I'm not necessarily I don't necessarily think it'll be great, but that's what they're trying to push now. It's obvious, and that's what
Yeah.
they're really working hard to get. And the potential of it is appealing, like
Yeah.
going back to how Jay was talking about feeling sad or angry or something. You could, if someone you saw looked like they were in front of you, like if the character model looked photorealistic and they appeared in front of you, and they had this sad story or something, like the potential for being immersed in the game and in the storytelling is like
Greater.
limitless.
Exactly. Like an example for something like that is like, imagine, you're playing a character and you're in a story and you're in a war zone. There's just a war environment and you're with your kid, you're trying to escape. There's an explosion. Your child is on the floor and has died. You can pick the kid up from the character. You're looking at it. You're holding the controller and everything, and you're walking and you feel some emotion. But with the VR, even though I do agree with Adam about I still think it has a long way to go. But what they're trying to do is, and you have it on, and then you actually, like, everything happens to where, like, there's an explosion and the sensation of dirt and stuff like about to hit you in the face, it makes you react. So you go through everything, and then you're actually picking that kid up. You're actually going through the whole motion of it. Like, it just, instead of you playing somebody's life who's going through something bad, it's actually happening to you. So I think, that's what Adam was trying to come across. I don't know if I kind of got there, Adam, with it, but I think you're at least that's what I got. I think you're trying to say that they're trying to use that to get more emotion out of people.
Yeah, I think I caught different waves from both of you guys. Adam kind of expounded in detail about it, and you basically came up with Weaponized PTSD, the video game. So yeah, I mean, just the fact that we progress to that point is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and to imagine that it's only going to get better. I mean, shoot, come on. When I was young and I'm playing, the Nintendo, I'm playing Mario and stuff, I never, even though technology was just booming, I never looked at everything around me. I just zoned in on what I was doing, and nothing can get better than this,
Yeah.
And every generation that we've seen, like, oh my God, it can't get better than this. It just does. It gets better and better.
Yeah, it just happens. It's hard to imagine when you're in the moment. Like when you're playing Mario 3, like you're just trying to pass the level where you're at. You're trying to get to the next world. You're not thinking about, oh man, how would Mario look like in 64 bits? Like, we didn't give a shit about that.
Yeah, we really didn't care.
We were just completely immersed in what was going on because we were in the moment of those leaps in progress.
Yeah, and now you're playing the Xbox One X and the PlayStation Pro and stuff like that, or versions of it, and, it's like, wow. Everything's just looking better, and that's the beauty of it too, because these newer consoles, because when you have a retro system too, you can only go so far. Every game you pretty much get is gonna stay looking around the same. It doesn't get any better from launch to the ending of the life. It stays around the same. But with these newer consoles, I'm pretty sure everybody would agree when they had a 360, even Fight Night. Everybody was attracted to Fight Night Round 3 when it came out.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It looked I know, we were all banging, and it looked perfect. It was great. But then, I'm pretty sure you agree that towards the end of the life cycle of the 360, the games were way better.
Yeah.
So the fact that even having a console and just watching the games get better and better through the life cycle of that console, that's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And yet and still, with all that being said, it tends to go full circle. Like, we have all this technology, and there's games that are just coming out or yet to come out that go back to the 8-bit era or the 16-bit era. And some of them are continuations of older series, or some of them are new series that, even though they have the older type of graphics, they have modern gameplay mechanics.
Right.
Is there any of those that kind of stand out to any of you guys? Have you guys played any of the more modern retro games?
Yeah, I usually play things like that on my phone, like dungeon crawlers, and it's actually introduced me to roguelites. You know, like I never played rogues, but since they're, you know, like they can be really quick. It's
just real quick, Adam, for the audience who may not know what a roguelite is, will you explain that?
Okay, Rogue is a very old game where you only had one life. So you would like delve down into a dungeon and you would try to see how far down you can get or something, and, you know, get loot, and once you die, that's it, you're done. You start all over. So there are like games like that on with like 8-bit graphics, like Dungeons of Doom or something, or like platformers. There's a lot of like platformers that have like the old Game Boy graphics.
What's
like
that
the
Viking
green
game that's like that? Ain't there a Viking game like that? And once you die, it's like that's it. You start right back in the beginning.
There's probably a lot.
There was one that was popular. That's why I brought it up. But go ahead.
There's also like games like Super Meat Boy.
Oh God.
Yeah, really. It has a really strong focus on the gameplay mechanics, which is what I was talking about when this podcast first started. Like, it's one of the things that draw me to these retro style games. Or even when the Xbox 360 first came out, one of the most popular games was Geometry Wars.
Geometry
love Geometry Wars.
Yeah. Geometry Wars was like, it was so simple, but it was so dope.
Yeah.
I remember playing that for hours and hours.
They
like
even
playing
had
that
the old
over
version,
other
right?
games.
Like they had it where with Geometry Wars you can play the original one, and then you can play like the remake that they did.
They did multiple. Yeah, you can play there was a one with very simple geometric shapes, and then they for the arcade had a better version with like, you know, like when you killed things, sparks would fly out, and it had better graphics.
They added all the particle effects and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's like games that are they're not quite 8-bit or 16-bit, but like they have a more hand-drawn style and stuff, like these old games like Skullgirls that or like these Final Fight type games and stuff where the graphics are drawn. The art is so appealing and
Skullgirls is so good.
It has such great art. Or even what's the new one? Cuphead.
Oh, I played Cuphead.
Cuphead is even more good.
Cuphead is dope.
Cuphead looks amazing, you know?
Yes.
And even I don't know, I don't think it's out yet on Xbox.
No, it's out on Xbox.
Looking, no, I'm talking about a different game.
Oh, I'm about to say like Cuphead.
Dead Cell. I don't think it's out yet on Xbox. It's on PC, but that game has like it's like a Metroid game mixed with rogue elements, and it has a very cool style. Like, I don't know if it would be 16-bit or
name?
A lot of these.
Which game is that?
A lot of these Dead Cells.
Oh, Dead Cells. Okay, I missed that part.
I'm looking that up right now. Dead Cells.
I think a lot of these games are
pretty amazing.
Oh, is it? I think it's on the Switch.
A lot of these
it's on the
16-bit games, quote unquote, aren't actually 16 bits. You know, like they cheat. But
yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that kind of art style, and I like that games have come back to it. Like I wouldn't want every game to look like that, but it's good, especially for like little arcadey games or games that you play on your phone or something like that.
Yeah, that's perfect because you mentioned Geometry Wars, and that's such a great example because the simplicity of the gameplay goes all the way back to like older style games like I want to say like Asteroids and stuff like that.
Yeah,
or Space Invaders or something.
Yeah, you have a mechanic where you move your ship around. You got the one analog stick where you're moving your ship. Use the other analog stick to kind of aim and shoot at everything. And it's so simple yet effective. But yet the graphics are simple and modernized enough to kind of suck you in with all the particle effects and the trippy aspect of using the bombs and watching the shockwaves go across the screen. Like,
it definitely takes you back. Did you guys play any of the Pac-Man championship games?
I just started playing that actually.
I actually liked it. I thought it was really good. And the reason why I bring it up is because like it's Pac-Man, so it's retro, but they added
because it's Pac-Man.
Because it's Pac-Man. Because it's Pac-Man. But they added like a new flavor to it, and I really like it. I think it's really good. I really wish they go and take. They went back, took some arcade games, and they try to freshen it up. But I really think Geometry Wars, just the way they did that, the way they did Pac-Man. I really think they should really grab a lot of these old school games, especially some of the top, your top favorite arcade games, and just redo them like that. Because I can play those games for hours.
But see, it's interesting that you mentioned Pac-Man because I feel like the way it remained appealing is by kind of sticking to the formula. And some games are just like that. Like, when I think of games like that, I think of, like, Sonic Mania. Because for a long time, they try to evolve the Sonic series. They've tried to bring them into 3D. Yeah, never worked out so well.
Sonic Mania, I have that, and it's really good. And it's because they...
Sorry, Greg.
Sorry, Greg. Again. Happy wedding day. We're just gonna bombard you with sadness.
But yeah, Sonic Mania, definitely. If you stick to something that works, I mean, it's just gonna continue to work. It's just a matter of just freshening it up. You know what I'm saying? Just taking it and adding more, like, making it more colorful or something.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Just leave it the way it is.
Yeah, Sonic Mania is the perfect example. Like, they just made little tweaks to the graphics here and there just to make it look really nice on an HD screen. And going back to the music, like, the music in Sonic Mania is really top-notch. That's T. Lopez work. Did a great job on kind of taking old classics in the Sonic series and coming out with some really good ones. And just, Christian Whitehead for just making Sonic awesome again.
Before I forget, if you want to play a game that really shows the evolution of graphics and stuff and game design, you can play a game called Evoland. Have you ever heard of this one?
No.
It sounds like Evo on Super Nintendo.
Yo, I remember that game too. I love that game. But it's called Evoland. You start off like it looks like Zelda, but you can only side scroll and stuff. And as you go through the game, the things you get that lets you progress are like graphics upgrades and stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It looks crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, part 2 just came out. It's on Android. I think it's on iOS.
It looks
I think
like
there's
it
a
almost
port
changes
for Xbox.
It's just different games.
It starts off as a 2D game. You can only walk in one direction at first, and then you get the ability to move both directions. Then you get the screen can move with you. Then you you unlock story. Like there's no story at first.
Oh jeez.
And it's kind of Zelda-ish. I think you'd like it a lot, Jay. And you eventually like you go from like Zelda-ish to you unlock RPG mechanics, and then it becomes like Final Fantasy VII.
Put this on my
Diaz. Yeah, and it's a very cool game. The concept itself is cool, but it also really shows how far games have come. You know.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking at it.
That
and
definitely sounds right up my alley.
It's crazy. It's like it's showing like it has 3 different parts right here, and it's showing like old Game Boy, like original Game Boy like graphics. And then like Game Gear. I mean not Game Gear. Game Gear. Game Boy Advance. Like it's just like showing it like that, and then it go into like a 64 like style. Like it's crazy how they're showing it side by side. It just constantly changes.
Yeah, you start off in 2D, then you eventually get to like pixel art, and then you get to polygons. It's really cool. I haven't completed them yet, but I own both of them already.
I'm gonna have to get it.
Yeah,
but
that's
definitely
a good way to just demonstrate. The evolution.
Yeah, another game too is the I got the Mega Man X collections. And
God, I'm jealous.
I know, I got both, man. They're so dope. And what's crazy though is, I start playing them, and they're actually, for the Xbox, I think the way the controller is, I think it'll be a lot better. It'll be more fluent. Just come back to you. But the way the Switch is, because of how the buttons are a little closer together and stuff, it's a little hard. It's a little hard to actually play the game.
Yeah, so sometimes that has a huge effect. Is just the way the controller's built, the way the buttons are designed, the placement.
Yeah,
and it does a lot.
Yeah, it really does. And it's like, I mean, I had to kind of do like some button mapping in order to make it work for the Switch, but I've been having fun with it though. I mean, it's like, it just brings back so much memories. It's like, oh my God. But it's exactly the same. It lets you, when you go into it, it lets you change the filters. So kind of like Adam's talking about, like this game over here. So it lets you kind of go pixel, it lets you go like way more cleaner, where you can kind of see him a lot better. I kind of like how it does that.
Yeah, I think I prefer the CRT filter when I play the other Legacy Collection titles.
It even asks you if you want to, do their little remix of the music for each stage, or if you want to do original music.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I kind of like how they did that. I like how they're like, you can play it exactly how you remember it, or we can add a little twist to it.
That's kind of dope, especially since, as far as video game music, one episode, one day. Yeah, Mega Man is one of the reigning kings of badass video game music. Yes.
And one of the things I love the most about it is it actually has a lot of information. Like it tells you all types of information about the game, but it actually shows you collector's items. It has a whole listing of collector's items and comic books and other things
I've noticed.
And I thought
it shows like the figurines and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, like when they said a collection, like, legacy collection of Mega Man, they really meant it. Like it's just everything is packed in there.
Yeah, it's a lot more legacy, a lot more collection.
Right. They need to do that though. They need to do that more often. Like take a lot of these retro games and just throw them out there, every game, like Doom, and just have the original one and then a remastered, and then I know the people used to mod the hell out of Doom, have all types of stuff in there.
All I know is just to see Mega Man making a comeback and seeing Mega Man 11 coming out in October.
Right.
It just does a lot for my little nerdy heart.
I know. I seen that. I was
coming back into the spotlight.
Right. But I would love to see them do that with like Final Fantasy. Just do Final Fantasy
Yeah.
1 and include the Japanese versions as well. That would be so dope.
Oh yeah, that'd be dope.
So, is there anything you would like to see, Adam? That's like that, like some kind of legacy collection of a game. I would like to see it with Zelda too.
Zelda
Like,
Legacy.
All the Zelda games.
Yeah, like all of them.
Pretty much, yeah. like just do the whole Legend of Zelda series. Just remaster everything.
That'd be so dope.
They'll probably do it. These companies love reselling you the game
And
again.
I'm one of those suckers. I would rebuy it.
Yeah, they've made suckers out of quite a few of us.
Well, I would see, because the thing is too, it's like with them cracking down so hard on, ROMs and stuff out there, it's not like you can really just grab anything no more and just and go back when you want to. It's like shit, But at the same time, it's like, well, if you don't want me to do that, then give me the games, give me what I love, so I can at least, even if I buy them, at least I own it and I can play it anytime I want.
Yeah.
So. But,
yeah, because they kind of do that a little bit with a virtual console, don't they? Like, aren't they kind of releasing a lot of old ROMs or a lot of old games?
Yeah, the backwards compatibility for a lot of the newer consoles have gotten like real extensive. So, Adam, on the Game Pass, do they even include any backwards compatible games on the Game Pass at all? Or is it all just new?
Oh yeah, there are. Yeah, I think the Star Wars series is on there right now. The entire Fable series I think is on there.
So you talking about like Knights of the Old Republic and stuff? What are you talking about?
Yeah, Ninja Gaiden Black is on there. I've been thinking about playing it again.
I was playing that the other day.
Oh really? Yeah.
And
the one thing that I don't like about the backwards compatibility thing right now is that there's no achievements and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like if I can go back and play Ninja Gaiden Black, but I won't get anything for, like, there won't be no visual representation of my accomplishments.
Yeah, it's just a nostalgia factor.
Right.
That game holds up pretty well too.
I've played that game through a bunch of times. Like, I can't remember how many times I've played through Ninja Gaiden. So, but if there was achievements, I think I'd be playing through it again right now.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of a letdown.
If you have the Xbox app, you can now look at the entire Game Pass
the
catalog
too. I got for that.
Yeah, so if you want you can now look at it. They have a lot of stuff. They have Alien Hominid.
Oh, shoot.
Another game with cool art.
That game was dope.
They got all the Banjo-Kazooies on there. They got Bayonetta. They have Braid. Yeah,
I got that Banjo-Kazooie collection thing, and that they did stick with the way it was originally. They didn't try to add anything. The only thing they did was maybe add a couple of characters, but it's exactly the way it was. So do you have to have the game? Huh?
You was big into Banjo-Kazooie back in the day, weren't you, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, I was. I played it, especially since I had my special PlayStation. So I played a lot of Banjo-Kazooie and Twisted Metal. I played Twisted Metal like crazy. That's another. I wish they bring those games back.
Yes, that's another one. Like, just bringing back, some of the stuff we love that kind of is in hiatus right now.
Right.
And that's a good one. I think Mega Man was a big example of that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Just not anymore with the Legacy Collection and the announcement of Mega Man 11. Is there any other games from back in the day that are long overdue
Probably
for
Star Fox.
a comeback?
They need to have a new, Star Fox games.
Oh God, yes. Because what was the last Star Wars game? Didn't they come out with a Star Fox on the Switch?
Probably need another Star Wars.
No, there's no Star Fox on the Switch at all. I think they might be making one, but the last one I played.
Or was it the Wii U?
I think it was a Wii U, but I really didn't play it. The last one I played was Star Fox Adventure. That was for the GameCube.
The GameCube, yeah. Okay, that was the one that had like kind of like the Zelda kind of style.
Yeah, where he was like crashed and he had to go through. Yeah, it's kind of like
Oh,
yeah,
that was that bullshit.
Kind of like yeah, but it was kind of similar to how what the hell? What's that game? Adam. Darksiders, but not really. Darksiders is super good, but it was like they were trying to, I'm gonna give it where it needs where, I'm gonna pay my respects. But they tried to do something like that with Star Fox, which is kind of crazy because like the whole thing is him and his ship and you shoot shit down. So it's like, oh, okay, but yeah, they need to do Star Fox.
I'm gonna sound like a broken record because I think this might be the third or fourth time, but I would love to see the Chrono Trigger series come back.
There's been rumors around that though
for forever, and it's never come back. They did Chrono Trigger, and then they did Chrono Cross, which I know a lot of people didn't really like too much, but I actually really enjoyed that game too. If they did a full reboot, I wouldn't even care. But Chrono Trigger was like one of the first games where they had all these player choice options and stuff, and it seems like such a good fit for the way games are now that it's kind of amazing to me that they haven't done a remake or a reboot or something.
Absolutely. Like, when you look at how far it's come, like we'll say like with the Dragon Ball Z games, like those have existed since the NES era. Yes. And now you have like Dragon Ball Fighter Z, where it actually looks possibly better than the anime right now. And now would be the perfect time to do a remake or just do a remake of Chrono Trigger. Just like build it from the ground up, do us a service. I think a lot of people, when it came to Chrono Cross, like, we're just kind of butthurt about the absence of Toriyama's art style. But from what I could tell, the game was actually good. I used to watch Adam play this pretty frequently. So yeah.
It's funny because you introduced me to Chrono Trigger.
Yes, that was that was mentioned earlier.
Diaz,
and I just want to share the love.
But Diaz is the one who introduced me to Chrono Cross. He bought it for me as a birthday present. I still consider it probably one of the best birthday gifts I have ever received.
Aww.
So thank you for that.
Good. Nailed it.
I got so much playtime out of that.
The audience can't see the tears. It's okay.
Oh my god. Here's some games. I'm just thinking of games that I would just love them to do remakes of. Zombie 8.
Go ahead, Jay.
Zombie 8 My Neighbors. I would love them to redo that game. I love that game. I used to be on that game all the time. I don't know if y'all ever played that.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Beautiful Joe.
Oh, that's interesting.
That was actually good. I would like to see that. I know Jay, Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm Jim, yeah, that's pretty long overdue.
Yeah, they
try to put them in the realm of 3D, like back in the Nintendo 64 era, but it didn't go so well.
Just bring the games, but keep them the same, like those kind of things. The same thing with, I like Jet Set Radio. I don't know if you guys played that. Jet Set Radio was good.
Yes.
They need to redo Jet Set Radio or something like that. That was really good. I used to play that all the time.
You know what other series? I would love the Jade Empire games to come
Jade
back.
Empire.
Did anybody play that?
Wasn't there only one? Was there more than one?
There was only one. There was one, and they were supposed to be making a second one. Like supposedly, the second one was in development and got canceled and never came out.
Okay, that's
when they ended up doing
Streets of Rage.
Yeah, so good.
Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage.
Just like a nice little collectors of all the Streets of Rage games.
Oh yeah, I have that one. How about even Knights of the Old Republic, since we're talking about Jade Empire?
Right, Knights of the Old Republic.
I have no faith in Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
they kind of made me feel sad. They hurt my feelings. I'm a Star Wars fan. I love Star Wars, and just every time I watch them, and then I just kind of walk away, just sadder every time. My tears are coming out dry now because it's like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? Like what are they doing?
You cry too much.
Like when I have hope, when there's like a freaking speck of hope, like with the scene with spoiler if you haven't seen it, but the scene with Luke Skywalker and he's out there and they're all shooting at him and he's just getting shot up and then he's still there and he brushes his shoulder off. I'm like, oh, that's kind of dope. And then wait a minute, he's not fucking there. It's some image of him and it pissed me off. I was like, you know what, I'm done.
Did anybody what now, Adam?
Did anybody know that's what was happening?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it was...
I didn't... I mean, he looked different. He did look different.
Unfortunately, I've become one of those people that can see everything coming. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I whispered over to my wife, like, that's not him. Look at his hair.
Exactly. He looked younger. Like, he had a younger... I mean, not younger, but I guess more cleaned up.
Yeah, he was, yeah. The other thing, which is another thing that makes me lose faith in Star Wars, is that scene was like ripped out of one of the Escape from New York movies or something. You know, Snake's Plissken? That's the same ending.
You know what? Damn.
Yeah, look it up on YouTube. Somebody did a side-by-side. It's like the same exact thing.
You're destroying it even further. Like, no.
Sorry. It's better for me to crush your dreams now. Then you won't be.
Well, I think we'll have plenty of time to talk about crushed dreams.
Especially, we just need to do a Star Wars one and everything.
Yeah, we could do
love about it and everything we hate about it.
The rise and fall.
Yep, the
of
rise
George
and fall.
Lucas, and having our hopes and dreams crushed, and just the death of our childhood in general. That'd be a great cast.
That would. We'll have to make Greg watch every single movie.
Greg, you got some homework.
Yes, you do. He has to watch
starting with The
movie.
Wizard.
We made him do that.
Jeez.
We made him do that with Back to the Future. Me and Adam made him
Did
watch
you know?
every one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was movie deprived when he was a boy.
Oh.
Yeah, Greg, you had us. No, I say you had a childhood. But anyway, so he didn't watch anything. I mean, he didn't know about nothing. There was tons of movies me and Adam would talk about, and he didn't know about anything. And that's definitely something retro we can do too. Talk about retro movies, like old school movies and stuff.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely something that he hasn't done, so we've made him watch tons
future podcasts
of movies. So, yeah, he's going to have to definitely watch Star Wars.
It's a good thing you have us, Greg. We'll never let you down. Well, we are approaching the end mark of this podcast.
Yes, we are.
Is there any honorable mentions that you guys want to get out the way before we go into our shout-outs and wrapping it up?
I don't know all the names of everybody who listens to us like Greg does, but thanks for listening to all our BS.
Yeah, if you tune in live with us, you know who you are. We got love for all you guys that are...
I know, touchdown, and
working.
yes...
Give Greg more work.
We
Let him
are
edit it
mailing
in.
your gift out. Yeah, give Greg more stuff to edit out.
Yeah. Greg is... Yeah, he's gonna be one happy camper about this. But yeah, shout out to Tay. In my last episode, we were talking about Comic-Con, and I mentioned X-Men Grand Design, which is it's a series about, X-Men history, simplified, easy to read and understand. Big Nick out in Detroit is the one who actually introduced me to that, and I read a little bit about it, got to get a preview of the first issue, so yeah, late shout out to Big Nick. I'm sorry, Keisha, when she listens to this, she might like this a little bit more than the last one because she hears about DC all the time.
It's the best.
Yeah, that's debatable, but we'll save that for another time. Adam, is there anybody you would like to mention?
I want to give a shout out to Daniel, to Allie, to Johnny, and Bobby and Tommy and Dutch. Those are all Karate Kid characters.
There's a little... I don't get the reference.
Karate Kid.
Yeah. Karate Kid.
God damn.
Jason.
I'm really disappointed with myself right now. All right, y'all.
All right, we're going to stop.
See you next week.
All right, see you next week.
Yeah, see you guys. See that? I'm talking. See you guys next week on NWK. I'm Jay, the 8-bit retro guy, and thanks for joining us.
Peace out.
Deuces.
Bye-bye.